G'day, I'm Paul. I am a closet big truck guy. I don't know why, I just love huge trucks like this that serve no real purpose here in Australia, but they exist, which means I like them. And every time I travel to the States, I always hire something like that because, you know, I want to blend in. This is the Chevrolet Silverado. This one here is the 1500, and this is the Trail Boss, which is an entry-level variant here in Australia. It's priced at a little over $100,000. That may seem like a lot of money, and that's because it is. These are priced at around the $40,000 US mark in the States. By the time they get here and do the conversion and then add their little profit margin on the top, that is how much they cost. So this competes with things like the Ford F-150 and the Ram 1500. You can get both of those in Australia as right-hand drive converted vehicles. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this car. So if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of the review, you can use the time codes up on the screen there, or if you're on YouTube, scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel so you can find out every single time we drive cars that are taller than I am. Let's talk exterior. You've got 9 colours to pick from, and all but white and red will set you back an extra $1,250. What about the design? I mentioned there in the intro that it is taller than I am, and to put the size of this into perspective, it's just under 2 meters tall. So this will fit into most apartment buildings in Australia if you want to own one of these and live in an apartment building. And then in terms of its length, it's almost 6 meters long, which is 700 mil or so longer than something like a Ford Ranger. So it is pretty big, and over 2 meters wide as well. So this has definitely a stance on the road. It's not too big though. It still can fit on Australian roads. Down the front here, in terms of the design, you've got the body color. All of this is piano black, but the cool thing is as you head further down, this is actually steel. So it's good to see that they have gone to an effort here with the off-road variant to make sure that it is ready for some rough and tumble type driving. Big Chevy badge on the front there, and then cooling for the naturally aspirated V8. You have some recovery points down the bottom here, LED fog lights, and then the parking sensors are built into this front bumper. In terms of the headlights themselves, full LED headlights with LED daytime running lights. It is worth pointing out that there is a new version of the Silverado coming in 2022, so it will completely update this with a different design at the front and also a new interior. Love this on the side there. You've got a little bit of aero work. We'll whip ourselves around to the side here and have a look at these tyres. And wheels, 18-inch alloy wheel. It's got a piano black finish on it. Have a look at these tyres. They are whoppers. So all-terrain tyres, these will be very suitable for off-road driving. Keep in mind, all-terrain tyres come with stronger sidewalls, so it means you can reduce the pressure in them when you are off-roading, and you're not going to break the sidewall if you hit a rock or anything like that. So this is ready built to go do some off-road driving. We will do a little bit of light off-roading later on. No wheel arch protectors. Look at that. The bigger you go, the less sort of off-road looking stuff they stick on the car. Got a Z71 badge here, indicator down the side, gloss black highlight on the wing mirror. And I don't know, tell me what you reckon this does. It looks like it's an LED, but I don't know when that would light up or what it actually does. So if you know, let me know down there. We've got rock sliders down the side here, also act as side steps to get inside. Piano black door handles, privacy glass, and then come around to the back. It's a long walk. Around the back here, you have a set of LED tail lights with an incandescent section in the center there. Chevy emblazoned along the back there. Now, getting in and out of the tray is actually a pretty straightforward experience. So push this and it will then automatically drop down. And it's also quite easy to lift it as well. So watch this as I pull that up. It's really easy to lift. So the hydraulics there are doing a great job. Got a spray-in bed liner, and inside the bed you've got hooks off to the side there to help tie things down. You've also got a bed light as well, so you can easily see inside. Now, what about the dimensions of this tray? Being that it is bigger than a Ranger, the dimensions match that as well. So little under 1,800 millimeters in load length, over 1,200 mil between the wheel arches, and almost 800 kilograms of payload. And the good thing here as well is, with the right tow ball, you can tow over 4 tons with a braked trailer. So they really have considered what this is going to be used for. And if you do need to tow something above that 3.5 ton limit with a bigger ball, you'll be able to get away with that. Finally, you've got side steps here as well if you need to retrieve anything from the tray. So we're inside the Silverado. We will start with the key. Here it is. So you got lock, unlock, remote start. Double tap of that opens the tray. You've got a panic button. Then on the back, the Chevy logo. Proximity sensing key, so leave that in your pocket. Once you're inside, you've got a starter button here. Now I'm going to point something out for you American viewers. You're used to the steering wheel being on that side, and they don't make this car in right-hand drive. This car's produced in Mexico. what happens is it's shipped to Australia and then the local arm in Australia does the conversion. And I've got to say, they've done a pretty good job by the looks of it. I'll have a look at the build quality in just a second, but in terms of the design, it's pretty straightforward. There is a new Silverado coming next year that makes this look like it belongs in 2021. This looks just ancient and kind of reminds me of GM Holden products of 5, 6, 7 years ago. But in terms of your materials, all soft touch along the top there. You've got that faux stitching around that sort of housing in the center, and then of course plenty of storage, which I'll run through shortly. What about your touch points? Well, you've got this giant center armrest here that's nice and softly padded. The door's kind of firm. How firm are they? Well, we've got our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description. Now, build quality. Let's do our little flex test here. That all feels really good. These are all the components that I think they produce here in Australia for this car. All of that stuff feels okay. There is a little bit of flex in that lid there, but I think for the most part, this all feels really good. And at first glance, you would never know that this was actually produced in the States and then converted here in Australia. Now, what about our door? Let's have a listen. Sounds okay, just a tiny bit tinny. Let's talk infotainment. So 8-inch infotainment system. It's a bit comical because it looks so small compared to everything else in this car and in the cabin. There is, like I said, a new version of the Silverado coming, and that is supersized in that. But in essence, it comes with AM and FM radio. There's no digital radio, which is disappointing. I don't think it's supported here in Australia with these converted cars. And that's all sent through a 6-speaker sound system. Sound system is okay, nothing amazing, but it plays music, has some bass, it sort of does the job, but it's just not super high end. In terms of smartphone mirroring, you get both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They're both wired, so full screen integration, nice and fast as well, no dramas there at all. And this is what Android Auto looks like. So yeah, full screen integration again, nice and quick too. And it's a sharp screen as well, which is pretty cool, despite it being absolutely tiny. Okay, so ahead of the driver, you have a small display as well, which is just for your trip computer. We'll have a closer look at that when we go for a drive. But outside of that, you get your gauges for coolant temperature, oil pressure, fuel, battery. So it is sort of like a cool setup with those analog gauges up the top. Safety, well, this is going to be a very short discussion because it has barely any safety features. There's no autonomous emergency braking, no lane keeping assistant, no lane departure warning, none of that stuff. You have to go up a spec to get that, which I think is just really cheap in 2021. But you do get blind spot monitoring that is built into that wing mirror there, plus rear cross traffic alert. And in terms of parking, you have front and rear parking sensors and a reverse view camera. I'll show you what that looks like. We've got to start the car. Okay, we'll hit that. It's kind of okay. The resolution isn't fantastic, but you can see what's going on there. And if you're specifically wanting grids, you can see them there. They move with the steering wheel. You can also get trailer view as well to be able to back up towards your hitch. Moving on to practicality, and we'll start with connectivity. So, get that out of the way. You've got a USB-C port, a USB-A port, a 12-volt outlet. The cool thing over here is it comes pre-wired with a brake controller. Often in Australia, you need to fit a brake controller and devise your own location for it, but that comes fitted here. So if you are doing towing, that is a big bonus. And then in terms of storage for your phone, well, your phone can live virtually anywhere. Up here on top spec models, that's a wireless phone charger, but a big phone can easily slot into there. You can pop your phone down here. There is literally a litany of places. In terms of drinks, you can fit your bottle in here. You've got rubber teeth that hold everything in place. Small bottle fits in the door easily. Let's try our big bottle because this is American. I'm hoping this actually fits in. Yes, it does. Excellent, because that's roughly the size of their coffee cups. Okay, and then other storage in here, you have the world's biggest center console. It's nice and deep. Now, over here, you have not one, but two glove boxes. So one down the bottom here for odds and ends, and then another one up the top. It's got big enough to put a bottle or something in. You don't have a sunglasses holder, but you do get these slots down on the driver's side and the passenger side. And moving on to comfort, you have dual zone automatic climate control. You've got heated seats. You can actually heat just the top section or the top and the bottom. And then you also have a heated steering wheel. And then you get electric seat adjustment. So forwards, backwards. Backrest goes forwards, backwards. You also have lumbar support for the driver and front passenger. They are cloth seats, so nothing spectacular, but they are pretty comfy. So if you are going to do long distance drives, it is a good place to be seated. Steering wheel, let's have a look here, offers tilt and reach adjustment. And then in terms of our reach test, all of that is easy to reach from the driver's seat. Back seat. Before I jump in here and show you how much room there is, let's have a look at some of these features. So both of these seats can come up. And the good news there is you can basically load things in down the side of the car. So lots of versatility, and then storage underneath the seats as well. But have a look at this. Behind this cover, you also have storage for valuables too. So really great setup, and something we haven't seen before on Australian utes. Right, hop in, you stand on the rock slider, grab the grab handle, and then climb your way in. Look at this for legroom. So all of that extra length that you get with the size of this thing means you have so much accommodation here. Look at that. Heaps of knee room, toe room, headroom. It's just unlimited. So really impressive setup. Mat pockets in the back of the seats. You've got your own air vents, USB-C, USB-A, a 12 volt. Got a center armrest here with 3 cup holders. So you can pop your bottle in there. You also have cup holders here if that wasn't enough. And finally, you can pop your bottle inside the door too. So stacks of room back here, and yeah, big fan of this space. Okay, so we've hit the road in the big beast, the Silverado Trail Boss. Now, powering this is an interesting engine because in Australia we're used to diesel powering everything, but this is a very hearty 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8. It makes 313 kilowatts of power and 624 newton meters of torque. It's such beautiful numbers, and it's mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. This is a transmission that was co-developed between Ford and GM. So I have tried it in Ford products and other GM products, and generally it's pretty good. Let's see what it's like here. We'll give this a little kick. It's actually pretty good. So it was holding gears there, and it's quick enough. So the struggle you have with naturally aspirated engines is sometimes when you have a transmission with lots of gears, it sometimes does a lot of hunting. This, on the other hand, feels pretty good. It's not hunting, it just gives me what I need, and then away we go. So pretty impressive. Chevy claims a combined fuel economy of 12.3 litres per 100 Ks. I don't really want to look at this, but let's have a look anyway, see how we're doing. 17.3, so just slightly higher. I will say though, we did do some off-roading before we filmed this segment, so it has been idling for a little bit, but don't expect this to use a small amount of fuel while you're driving it. What about your drive modes? Well, your selector is up here. One flick to the left activates towing mode. Towing mode simply limits the amount of gear shifts the car does when you are towing a load on the rear. It means less stress on the engine and just smarter choices when it comes to gearing. And if you flick the knob to the right, it will go between sport, normal and off-road. We'll have a play with off-road later, but we'll do sport in a second when we punt it through our corner. Normal is just the standard driving mode you'll do your day-to-day driving in. One thing you'll notice, behind the steering wheel you have buttons. They're not paddle shifters though. Your gear selectors are here on the column shifter, so you can use those to flick between the different gears and to select what you need to select. So interesting placement. I would have probably preferred something on the steering wheel, but I think column shifters are pretty norm for these big trucks in the States. Okay, let's pop this into sport mode, and we'll throw it through our corner here. Give it a little punch. Kind of love that sound. Okay, here we go. It's actually surprisingly good. It doesn't sit dead flat, but it gets up and moves. And it's interesting, the steering, this is not natively right-hand drive, so all the conversion work is done here in Australia, but the steering has a surprising amount of feel. I remember when I drove the Silverado 2500, I really didn't like the steering tune they had for Australia, but this is fantastic. So they've moved the steering wheel and everything over to this side, but you can't really tell. It all just feels nice and natural here behind the wheel. Now, we don't have an official 0 to 100 time for the Silverado, but we've put it up against our stopwatch, and this is how it went. So what's the ride like? Well, this is a big old beast of a thing. It weighs well north of 2,000 kilos, so it is pretty heavy, and you've got to take that into account when you think of the engineering complexities of making something like that handle. But surprisingly, it's a bit like the Ford Ranger Raptor, which has the Fox Racing shocks, and surprisingly handles better than the standard one. And this is in the same boat. It really just cruises along nicely, and even these bumps that you hit at highway speeds on country roads, it just soaks them up without any dramas at all. So really impressive setup, and I just love the way that it is just fuss-free in terms of the way that it drives. Now let's talk road noise. So when you do bury the foot, you hear a whole stack of V8, which I love, but At highway speeds, you hear a lot of tyre noise, and that's due to those aggressive all-terrain tyres. They really will eat into the pleasant environment inside the cabin here, and it's something to take into account. It could be worth looking at the LTZ, which is one step above this, a little more luxurious and doesn't come with the chunky sort of rock-crawling tyres that this comes standard with. Turning circle, make sure you're sitting down for this, 14.1 metres. It is a whopper. So if you are driving this in the city, be prepared for 3-point turn city, because it will require a little bit of effort to get around. The good news is though, at low speeds, the steering is actually quite light, so it's going to mean you can sort of maneuver it pretty easily. What about visibility? So look, it's okay. It's not amazing. I can see down the fronts of the car, and the 6.2 litre badges on the bonnet make it easy to sort of see roughly where the front of the car is, but I'm a bit disappointed in the wing mirrors. You've got blind spot monitors built into them, but the mirror itself, it's just really flat in the sense that I don't get great visibility down the side of the car. I would love that they used a convex, concave, whatever the one is, it's going to give me better vision down the side of the car, because I think it really needs it. Out the back though, it's great. That envelope is huge, so I can clearly see out the back window and see exactly what's going on, but be under no illusion, this is going to be tricky to park in and around the city. Okay, let's do a little bit of light off-roading just to see whether this big beast can actually do the whole off-road thing as well. So being the Z71 and also the Trail Boss, this comes with all of the off-road equipment as standard. The Trail Boss also gets a 2-inch lift, which means you get 260 millimeters of ground clearance, which is pretty boss. You have a 30-degree approach angle, that is the angle of the face you can approach before you hit anything, and a 23.3-degree departure angle, which is the same but in reverse. Keep in mind that may be affected by a tow bar as well, which we have today. In addition to that, you have 4-wheel drive controls over here. You can basically select 2 high range, 4 high range, 4 low, or automatic. Then you also have a drive mode selector for off-road mode and a hill descent control as well. There's an Eaton self-locking differential at the rear, which I'm not a huge fan of those things. I prefer to just have a button that engages it, so we'll test that out as well to see how effective it is. If none of that makes any sense to you, click up here to watch a video we shot before on 4-wheel drive controls explained, so you can get a better idea of how all this stuff works. For our off-road course today, I'm going to leave stability control on. I've selected auto for the off-road mode, and I will also put it into the off-road driving mode as well. That tailors the stability control and gives us a bit more freedom of slip. Let's give Log Mountain a shot, and then our descent as well. I'll be keen to see if we catch any rocks as well, especially on those rock sliders, because that is what they're designed for. So, okay, so getting up here is good. It's actually really nice and progressive. It's smooth and it's comfortable too, which is good. It's nice and dry here today, so it's just getting up here without any dramas, but it's not surging either. It just feels great the way that it's progressing up here on its own, so that's cool. I like that. I'll engage hill descent control. This turn here. There we go. Got the rock on the rock slider. It's doing its job. That's what it's there for. We won't punch a hole under the body. We'll go down our hill here. I'm going to let go of the brake now. We'll see how that goes. Oh wow, that's really good. Hill descent control works at a fantastic speed there. It's got full control over the car as we go through these divots. Gee, those tyres are really doing a nice job there. The amount of articulation you have on that rear axle means you're getting plenty of clearance, and it's just walking down here without any dramas at all. Very nice. Okay, let's head over to our flex test. We'll see how rigid this body is. What I'm also going to do is leave this in 2-wheel drive so we can test out the rear diff lock. We've done this here before on the offset moguls to see how it works and whether it's effective. Okay, let's go through here. I say this every single time, but it never gets any less scary when going through here, especially in a car like this that is very much vertically challenged. Okay, we'll get this to the center and we'll do our flex test. There it is, about there. No dramas at all. That opens and closes with ease. So big tick there. Let's get out of here and we'll head over to the other side. Okay, flick it back over onto this side. I'll try not to break Eagle's GoPro. Oh, that's close. Precision. Okay, so we're approaching our offset mogul now. I'm going to get that rear wheel in the air, and that's going to give us a chance to test out this auto locking differential. So there it is, just there. We've got the wheel off the ground. I'm now just going to roll off the brake and onto the throttle, and in theory it should now engage that rear diff lock, and we'll see how it goes. Oh, that is violent. I've never met a car, a lot of the Chinese utes have these self-locking diffs. I've never met one that doesn't give you a mighty shunt in the back when it engages. And it's a big problem because I just want to know that it's on. I don't really want to wait for it to engage, because if you are in a situation where you have needed that rear diff lock to be on, engaging midway through your, slowly sinking cycle through mud isn't going to help anyone. So let's give that one more shot, this time in auto mode, and I want to see how it goes just on its own accord and it figuring out how to use its own traction control system. Okay, so we are approaching our offset mogul again. This time we are in four-wheel drive auto, and let's see if it's able to figure all this out itself. There's that wheel in the air. Just going to roll off the brake and onto the throttle. Yeah, it's interesting. It still really wasn't in four-wheel drive. It was just waiting for the rear wheels to slip before it actually engaged the front axle. So, look, it's okay. This is obviously not super hardcore stuff, but just on my gut feel, I just reckon this needs a bit more customizability there in terms of the off-road controls. I'd love to see a center diff lock and a rear diff lock, especially on the Z71. That's meant to be the off-road special. So, yeah, a little disappointing it's missing just that basic functionality. Okay, so the Silverado Trail Boss, yeah, I think everything about it just appeals to me. There are some downsides though. The lack of safety equipment, I mean, seriously, it's 2021. How does it not have basic features like AEB? I know it's an off-road vehicle, but at least have it there so I can switch it off. I'd also love to see the ability to lock the center diff or the rear diff as opposed to it being an automatic setup. I just don't think long-term, if you're going to be doing some serious off-roading, that's going to be beneficial. But outside of that, I mean, if you don't really have a use for it, you probably don't need it, but I think that's part of the appeal. It's just that look. You could say that about any dual cab ute. A lot of people don't have anything in the trays. They're there as a family vehicle and then, fun on the weekend or potentially a bit of work during the week. And I think as a family vehicle, this has so much room inside. You can use it as a work vehicle. And then if you go away on the weekend and do some off-roading, it does that as well. So it is expensive. Keep that in mind. And it will cost you a lot to run, given that it chews through fuel. Petrol V8, who would have thought? But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Have you bought one of these? What's it like, or would you prefer a diesel? Really keen for your feedback, and I can't wait to see what the 2022 version of this looks like. I think that new interior they've got in there will just look sensational in this package. So keen for your feedback. Let me know down there. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. Until next time, take it easy.